Thank you so much. I've got two sections here. I think it would take a little bit longer than I expected. But since this is jam-packed with case studies, I would send you the recording. So you might just get back to the case studies and rethink about it. So please feel free to jump out if we go above 1 hour, I guess, but hopefully we are not going that far. So part two of the discussion is about cemeteries are not only for the dead. The therapeutic role of cemetery landscapes is similar in some ways to rehabilitation settings, which is often underestimated. This is a highly relevant and growing topic in both research and design, contributing to social sustainability. In this section, I will show you how cemeteries can be designed to support healing, process grief, and create spaces for reflection and restoration. Going through the literature, there are four main components in the literature that we can understand about therapeutic landscapes. First, grief is spatial. Grief is emotional. We all know that, but grief is also spatial and it could be experienced through physical components like light, material, spatial sequencing. The second component is that designing the emotional field creates a specific emotional atmosphere through physical components again, so that grief could be understood through space and design components. The third aspect of the literature through therapeutic cemeteries is that symmetry can act as a therapeutic structure, and it provides a sense of order, stability, and calm. Yeah, symmetry, not cemetery. Symmetry, not in the way that it just reflects or mirror the shapes, but in terms of clarity, which we go through that in a second. And finally, the fact that grief is not a bad thing. Everybody thinks that grief is a bad thing, but for the purpose of designing landscape and planning landscapes, grief provide rituals, movement, and in fact, strengthening the bonds between human beings. So that's why grief is a positive thing for landscape design. Now, we got six principles for creating therapeutic cemetery and landscapes. Let's walk through a few case studies to see how this works. They may seem obvious to you, but believe me, every designer needs to hear and truly understand these principles. Let's explore through that six principles. The first principle is symmetry, as I discussed earlier. Cemeteries perform best when their spatial structure is immediately legible, when visitors can orient themselves without effort. Research consistently shows that clear path hierarchies, distinct landmarks, aligned axes, and balanced spatial sequences help people to remain composed during emotionally vulnerable conditions. The case of Yarkon Cemetery illustrates this clearly. A coherent arrangement of graves creates a strong directional structure and a readable network of paths aligned with distinct landmarks. Look at the landmarks. You got one, two, three landmarks, in between spaces are empty, and you got a central landmark. And you got clear pathways. So you can clearly orient yourself and understand where you're standing, where is your destination. Clear routes and transition, therefore, support diverse users, enabling smooth movements between private moments of grief and shared collective spaces. In this sense, spatial clarity is not just an aesthetic decision, it is a form of emotional infrastructure. Now, the second case study is assistance cemetery in Denmark, and this is a masterclass. I highly recommend you to visit this site if you've been able to visit Denmark. And it's not just about being a cemetery, it's about being a fantastic landscape design. Look at the immaculate design. And we are talking about the sensory components, sensory protection and environmental gentleness of for creating therapeutic landscapes. Look at the immaculate design. It feels like you're walking towards a country house with low walls and create a sense of curiosity and interest for you. The low wall helps define the space, creating a gentle sense of boundary and enclosure without feeling closed or restricted. The statue acts as a quiet focal point. Look at the statue here. And giving people something to orient around without dominating the space. The planting is organized in multi-layered. The planting is layered turf, trees, shrubs, different colors, different texture, and all the way through, the path is clear and easy to follow, allowing movement without confusion and supporting slow, reflective walking. Together, these elements create a space that feels calm, legible, and familiar. Another example from Assistance Cemetery, talking about the principle number 3, movement-based emotional pacing. This example from Assistance Cemetery demonstrates how movement shapes emotional experience. The path is straight and clear, strongly defined, and visitors immediately understand where they're going. This creates a sense of predictability and comfort. Look how many layers do we have in this landscape. First, the edges, soft ground planting, defines the boundary of movement without creating harsh barriers. Second, the hedges. Soft hedges, they create a clear, continuous edge, offering a sense of enclosure and protection. And in the next layer, you got the tall bushes forming a vertical canopy. And then finally, you got large trees that create a controlled spatial experience, giving structure, rhythm, and a strong spatial identity. When you're walking through this space, given that the distance between the trees are equal, you feel certain. Psychologically, this shows that movement through this space becomes almost effortless. Visitors don't need to think about where to go. They can focus on reflection instead. Going through the principle number 4, ecological comfort and restorative planting, Greenwood Cemetery in New York City is a great example, great case study, providing ecological comfort and restorative planting at the same time. Designed as a forest landscape rather than a traditional graveyard, this is supporting planting and generating landform to support comfort and clarity. Look at the niche walls. The niche walls create a sort of closure and an opening, a sort of sequenced closure and opening that create a very nice environment. Look at the landform to the left-hand side. It creates an informal seating, and this is very good for children and the sensory feelings of the children, which we go through in a second, in the next section. And also, it just provides a lot of seating options for you. You can see these buildings here, mausoleums, and then you got old trees above them. This is a fantastic place for people to play, to sit, to rest, for children, for elderly, for adults. And this is how ecological comfort and restorative planting is important in cemetery and landscape design. Number 5 principle is providing cultural and symbolic inclusivity. And for this specific principle, we're going through Cho Chu Kang Cemetery from Singapore. In a multicultural context like Singapore, it brings together diverse identities and traditions. Visitors can see personal belongings. If you walk through this, you can see personal belongings of the people, pictures, inscriptions, and cultural symbols, all immersed within a living outdoor museum. What would happen when you're walking through here, and how does the cemetery heal people? This visibility creates a sense of shared human experience. It reminds people they're not alone in their grief. Walking through the space becomes reflective, grounding, and reassuring. This landscape is a therapeutic landscape because it makes memory visible and collective, while offering its own way of expressing death and shared experiences. How beautiful would be such sort of design being implemented in Australia? Principle number 6, alignment between design intent and long-term management. I'm going to show you two examples. A good example, which is Père Lachaise in Paris, and a bad example. You probably know that. Therapeutic value depends on ongoing governance and maintenance. Well-maintained spaces feel respectful, safe, and emotionally reassuring. Poor design and maintenance disrupt the emotional experience of landscape. Governance acts as quiet infrastructure managing movement, behavior, and care over time. Père Lachaise is a strong example of a long-term design durability. And specifically, we're talking about this crematorium. Jean-Camille Fourmaget crematorium uses a courtyard structure clear, enclosed, and highly adaptable. The courtyard works because it separates functions without conflict. And as you know, this is a very old building. It's, I think, 100, 150 years old. It creates a stable, controlled environment and allows change without disrupting heritage in the long run. And this, because of this fantastic management and design, this continues to work well, responding to Parisians' needs even today. This is why courtyards and in general, well-designed is really important in a long life landscape, such as cemeteries. And let's go through a bad example. This is Faulkner Memorial Park. I didn't want to single out the specific project, but since the designers are no longer with us, I guess that's a good point. You see how messy is the design? This is another crematorium, and there are 4 chapels around it. Where is the entrance for crematorium? How people, I can tell you, I would be really confused. They want to attend one of these, sort of chapels here. It's very difficult to navigate through. And you can see now how social sustainability and well-designed is really important in order to think about the long-term assessment and implementation of cemeteries.